If you're not familiar with NAPSR, NAPSR is an organization of folks like me, program directors for the various state pipeline safety programs who serve to promote pipeline safety in the United States and its territories. Like you've heard before, state pipeline safety personnel make up more than 75% of the state and federal inspection workforce, and they also account for more than 90% of the regulated interstate gas pipe systems and 32% of the intrastate hazardous liquid systems in the U.S. As like any association, we have subject matter experts, and we have, oil and gas producing states, and we did create a task force within the organization to discuss the issues at length in anticipation that PHMSA might do a future rulemaking on gathering lines. So what I'm about to say is some of that outcome of that work that group has done here. The states engaged in the production of natural gas have identified the need for consistent national maximum safety regulation applicable to the construction and maintenance of gas gathering and production pipelines. Currently, there are approximately 32 gas or liquid producing states, some of which are new to the game with the escalation of gas fracking, as we know. We all understand that pipeline safety oversight is a critical function of the transportation of natural gas and hazardous liquids. However, a regulation gap exists in the federal pipeline regulation associated with the safety oversight of gathering lines in Class 1 locations and production pipelines. Consequently, NAPSR believes that regulatory changes are required to enhance safety. Each participating state had unique concerns with regards to gathering and production lines. In an effort to move forward on developing recommendations, the task force team identified two areas of concern. At what point the pipeline should be jurisdictional, where should that begin, and what regulation should be applied. There was much discussion on that part, and by the way. Currently, there is no PHMSA jurisdiction over production pipe, and PHMSA has chosen at this time not to promulgate regulations for Class 1 gathering. PHMSA has jurisdiction over Class 1 gathering lines, but has chosen not to enact regulations applicable to these lines, being in part on a risk, that were in part on a risk-based analysis performed years ago. And as Don had mentioned and some others, that the risk analysis assumes small diameter pipe, lower pressure pipelines, which current gathering line regulations is based on, although improvements were made in 2006, as Don had mentioned earlier. The task force determined that class locations appeared to create a stumbling block when identifying jurisdictional pipe. This is because the class location terminology is being used as a proxy for risk identification. The science of risk assessment essentially chooses winners and losers. However, in pipeline safety, there should be no losers. All pipelines should be treated as equal with a mindset to design, construct, and maintain and operate those pipelines at a zero failure standard. That's not to say that all pipelines should have the same regulations, but at a minimum, all pipelines need some form of regulation. With regulation comes accountability. So as I sit on the sidelines, and since I've been a regulator there, I've always kind of said a little thank you for not having gathering lines in my state, because over the years I've seen this constant struggle of what's gathering, what's production, what's transmission. Don mentioned that there's been some form of regulation since 1972. And, the complexity of this discussion, we're still, to this day, not clear at all times what exactly those segments are at any given time. The complexity of API RPA 80, which is a reference standard in Part 192, is defining the beginning and ending of gathering and transmission, encompasses more than 30 pages of language and drawings. Even with the detailed descriptions, regulators and industry still cannot identify beginning and ending points of gathering with any certainty. 192 does not cover production facilities in non-rural locations. Pipeline operators and regulators must distinguish regulated gathering lines from unregulated production facilities. Similarly, in rural locations, they must distinguish unregulated gathering lines from regulated transmission and distribution lines. Yet since the Part 192 regulations were first published in 1970, operators and inspectors have had difficulty making these distinctions. The reason is twofold. First, as defined in 192, a gathering line begins at a production facility, but the term production facility is not defined. Operators and inspectors must interpret the term production facility to determine whether a downstream pipeline is a gathering line. In the absence of a definition, their interpretations vary. Second, although a transmission line or main marks the end of gathering under the gathering line definition, 192 defines transmission line as a particular type of pipeline other than a gathering line, and defines main as a particular type of distribution line, which is defined as a pipeline other than a gathering line or a transmission line. The circularity of these definitions makes it necessary to interpret the term gathering line to determine whether a pipe is transmission or distribution line. However, the complexity of many gathering systems results in a varied interpretations of gathering line. And since production pipelines are not included within the scope of 192 pipeline safety regulations, production lines are non-existent. Thus, many operators are taking advantage of the production terminology within APR RP 80 to bypass regulation. So what can we do? The highest standard for safety for the nation's pipeline network should be the goal of no matter what class location, people should be afforded the same protections offered others no matter where they reside. And for no other reason, just take a look at the statistics. Current regulatory jurisdiction of gas gathering lines covers approximately 16,364 miles. That was 2012 data. I don't know what happened in 2011 because there was 4,000 miles more then. So I don't, somewhere those disappeared. I know maybe they became production lines. I don't know. But anyway. But look at the current estimates for the total number of unregulated gathering at 240,000 miles and growing yearly. NAPSR highly urges PHMSA to move forward on a gas gathering rulemaking. And I can appreciate Linda wanting to kicking that can down to the states, but we don't feel that's productive. The states are looking to PHMSA to guide the states and have a baseline regulation that the states can individually build on. Also, there's the issue of, be careful what you ask for. Obviously, if you get this, then the states are going to be challenged to bring on more inspectors to inspect this mileage. For Texas, this would almost double their mileage within their state if they were to roll all these lines in here. So it's a unique challenge. Money obviously is going to be an issue, but really number one, it comes down to safety. So thank you.